we are going to tackle the challenge. So we're going to take what we've learned and we're going to create a very simple Instagram post. The only requirement is to have a photo and have text on top of the photo. So let's create a new document, File, New. It's going to remember what we created last time, which was already an Instagram post size, 1080 by 1080 pixels. You could do whatever size you want. You don't have to copy me perfectly. Go ahead and just keep everything default and just click on Create. So here's our document. There's a lot of ways we can bring in our photo. And so I went to pexels.com, which I find a lot of my photos on, and I just typed in shoe. I wanted to do a quick little shoe post that said 20% off or some kind of advertising for a shoe. This is something we can quickly practice our layer system with. So I went ahead and downloaded this photo. It's by Melvin Buzo. Photographers will sometimes remove photos from Pexels. This is a free website I love to find. Pexels.com. I love to find photos. You're going to get really sick of me talking about it because I talk about it all the time. A lot of the photos I use for projects are found on Pexels. If a photographer removes a photo, try to find a different type of photo. It happens all the time. I use a photo for a project and then the photographer removes it and then students don't have access to it. That's okay. You can use an alternative one. Just type in shoe. If for some reason that one's no longer available, right now it should be. You can type in and do this exercise over and over again with different photos. So I downloaded that photo. I can drag it in. So I have my downloads. I can just drag it right in and it's going to automatically populate it. You could have created a frame if you wanted to frame perfectly in the square. You could create a frame that goes over the whole document, and that is a circle. We want to create a square. So I just went up there and selected square. And I can do the same thing and drag it in. So I can double click and I can move and frame this how I want. So I get the move tool, so I can get my transform box. That move tool is handy for that. But I mean, it really depends if you like working with frames or not. They have their benefits and they have their negatives. For this case, I think I'm just going to drag it in and not use a frame. I'm going to drag it in and not use a frame because it's a pretty easy. I like to use frames when I'm working with multiple photos, but when I have like one big background photo, sometimes just dragging it in works really well too. So we have our background layer. Let's just say shoe photo on our layer. We have this background layer, which is by default. You can unlock this. So you see how it has this little lock icon. You can lock layers so that you don't accidentally move it. The background layer is almost always locked, but you can unlock it by just selecting the lock icon, and now it's its own little white layer. But I'm going to keep it locked. I just wanted to kind of show you locking. You can also lock the shoe photo. So let's say I have this cropped perfectly. I don't want to change it how I have it. I don't want to accidentally select it and move it. You can go up to this lock icon. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. You can see the little lock icon, lock it. So if you ever have a hard time selecting a layer, make sure it's not locked. And now I can click and I can't drag it around. It kind of locks it in place. So let's create a text layer. So for text layers, what's great about it, or type layers, I can click on the type tool and click. What's great about it is it creates a layer for you. It's not like an object where you have to create a new layer and then load the object. It automatically turns it into its own layer. So we could say 20% off. And we get our move tool, we get our transform control so we can make it bigger. And press enter when we're happy with it. We can go over to our properties panel and we can change the color. And if you want to try to get the eyedropper tool and sample this yellow, because I like to bring out colors in photos and tie them all together to create a theme. So I'm going to double click this color swatch on my properties panel. And if I have this color picker that pops up, I can go outside of this color picker and then automatically it's going to give me an eyedropper tool to sample a color. So I'm going to go down here and sample a yellow color. That might be a little dark, so I have to kind of test out and make sure it's going to be visible enough. We can also sample this red because there's a lot of red also in here because that's just not going to be high contrast enough. I'm not going to be able to see that very well. So maybe just trying some different colors to sample out, see what could work. Maybe the red. So we can change the typeface to anything we want. Right now I just have it on Open Sans. I guess we can keep it with Open Sans. We can make it extra bold, make it nice and big and bold. And we need to have some details. So let's go ahead and create a duplicate of this text. I'm going to just go right click, duplicate layer. And I have the move tool selected. I'm just going to drag it down. And we type in shoes. So now we have kind of these kind of two text boxes that are independent of each other that we can use. So let's have some contrast between these two. So let's take shoes, let's make it regular, and let's bring out one of these other colors. Let's bring out black. Click OK, take our move tool, and click off. So now we have these independent layers. So now we can click and drag. Here's another great way to select multiple layers. So I can click and drag, and as long as there's no other background layers in the way, I can click and drag and I can select both of these too, and just drag them down. You can just find an opportunity to place that here. So that is okay, but it really doesn't pop. We need to get maybe like a shape or something to really get something to pop off that white. So I have the ellipse tool selected, and I'm just going to create an ellipse tool. Let's make sure we have a new layer. Click and hold, and we have our ellipse tool. Let's drag this where the type is on top of the circle. So we're going to drag this ellipse tool below the type. So I just click and hold and drag it right below. So now I can kind of change the colors on here to make sure they pop. So I'm just going to color. I'm just making them white. So we can make this ellipse tool a little bit smaller. Put it right here in this open area. And maybe we can center align those two objects. And it could be that black shows up better, and it could be, you know, just have to find the right combination. Make sure it's high contrast enough to be readable. So I would make this yellow, that's just not popping, but if I were to change the typography to maybe this black that's in the picture, it's going to have just enough contrast to be shown a little bit better. So that's nothing too amazing or too brilliant, just kind of practicing layer systems. So we have our type on the very top, we have our photo locked and on the bottom, and we have this ellipse tool that we can freely move around, and we can freely move each one of these text boxes around as well to make a headline. So let's go a little bit more detailed and do another little small image.